Bart Simpson is one of the most popular students at Springfield Elementary. Maybe. Sometimes. Okay, it mostly depends on the episode. But he is most certainly considered more popular than his sister. Because of this, the series tackles this subject more frequently with Lisa, introducing her to new characters who might want to be her friend. But after 30 plus seasons of this dynamic, it starts bringing into question which of these two are truly the social butterfly. Today we're looking at the battle between the status quo and the character actions. Over the course of 32 seasons, has Lisa made more friends than Bart? Yeah, I know. This sounds like one of those internet gotchas where the answer is always the opposite of what you'd initially expect, but I think there's a legitimate argument for either case being true. Bart has more status quo friends, and folks always seem to be drawn into his adventures and schemes. Then again, the show designs entire plots around introducing new friends to Lisa. For this analysis, I'm going to look at confirmed friendships and romantic relationships only. That means no one-way friendships or one-sided crushes. We're looking for mutual rapport, that both characters actually like each other. Hanging out, doing activities, or going to social events are good indicators. We're also going to stick mostly to characters who speak. Do all these kids consider themselves Lisa's friends? Do all these boys personally like Bart? I don't know. Look, this is just a ridiculous breakdown of past relationships. There's obviously no exact science to this, so anything super ambiguous we'll discuss at the end. Oh yeah, one more thing. We're also only including characters around Bart or Lisa's age. It makes a messy analysis slightly cleaner, and also, let's face it, if present-day adults were included, Lisa wins. Put it on the screen. Lisa wins. For this comparison, I'm going to use this scoreboard to keep track, and we're going to do it in 5 rounds, 5 distinct friend categories. First up, the status quo friends. Ready, set, go. This set of characters is the easiest to define. These are the regulars who have shown up in multiple episodes, often as Bart or Lisa's friends. For Bart, we've got Richard, Lewis, Nelson, and of course, Bart's friend. Let's also throw Martin into this group, since Homer considers him a friend in Saturdays of Thunder, and he goes on that road trip in Shelbyville Adventure. I'm not including Wendell, by the way, as there's never really much between him and Bart. For Lisa, this list is trickier to define. I think we can safely include Janie here, as she's hung out with Lisa on multiple occasions. She's considered a fair-weather friend. I think we can also add Sherry and Terry to this list. They eat lunch with Lisa and hang out in Larda the Dance, and then there are other examples of them going to birthday parties or offering to be her friend. These two are definitely her frenemies, but you can't be frenemies without at least being friends. I guess. As you can tell, things are already getting dicey for Lisa in this study. In the status quo of the show, it's clear that Bart has the more stable group of chums. It's really just Nelson who often switches to an antagonistic role. Let's move on to round 2, Friends of the Week, which should be slightly more advantageous for Lisa. Alright, these are folks who become Bart or Lisa's friends for a specific episode. Maybe they're a new kid, maybe they're voiced by a celebrity, maybe they're a series regular getting a spotlight episode. The point is, these characters clearly make a connection with Bart or Lisa, even if it's only for this one episode. For Bart, we have Laura Powers, Ralph Wiggum, Donnie, Bashir, Charlie, Eric, Ross and Tyler, T-Rex, and Diggs. Now, Laura Powers isn't into Bart romantically, but she does hang out and confide in him, so we'll put her in this category. Characters like T-Rex and Donnie have major blow-ups with Bart, but they both turn things around in the end. And you could argue that Bart never actually likes Ralph, but due to the sheer amount of hanging out and having fun together, I think we should count him. Lisa's list is more extensive, as she gets these storylines regularly. She's got Ralph Wiggum in Season 4, Allison in Season 6, then Aaron, Ben, Dean, and Rick in Season 7. Then it's Alex Whitney, Jesse Grass, Ronaldo, Michael D'Amico, Juliet Hobbs, Isabel Gutierrez, Toomey, Harper Jambowski, Sam Monroe, and Addie. Ralph and Jesse are kind of like Laura Powers in that they're romantic interests, but both are more platonic in the end. Much like Lisa's status quo friends, This is an extremely contentious crew, especially in the later seasons. Alex Whitney is condescending, Lisa fights with Isabel over politics, Toomey was initially being paid by Homer and Marge, Addie ends up using Lisa, and Harper is just kind of the worst in general. For both Bart and Lisa, these characters' introductions are often bookended with a goodbye. Usually it's because it's impractical to keep having Daniel Radcliffe or Emily Blunt on the show each week. The two characters who probably had the best chances of recurring were probably Bashir and Sam. Both are Tress MacNeille characters who ended their episodes on friendly terms. There's no plot reason for both of them to disappear either. It's honestly a bummer the writers never did anything with either of them. It's like, sorry guys, this is a status quo show. Get out of here. Bart and Lisa have had several boyfriends and or girlfriends from over the years. Since we're looking at mutual friendships in this study, we can't include one-sided crushes. So characters like Corey, Blake, Sarah Plainenthal, or Melody wouldn't be included. Same with minor characters where we don't have a lot of information, like Langdon Auger or Sherry and Terry's boy-crazy cousin. For this round, we're starting with Lisa. You'll understand why in a moment. Lisa's romances include Milhouse, Nelson, Hugh Parkfield, Thelonious, Luke Stetson, Edmund, This Portuguese Boy, Nick, Lucas, Jack DeForest, Brendan, Colin, Lisa's 3 girlfriends in the future, and probably her college roommate. Even if this never became a romance, she's at least Lisa's friend. Overall, a pretty straightforward list. Bucking her usual trend, Lisa actually has regulars like Milhouse and Nelson as a sort of romantic baseline throughout the series. As a result, she tends to get involved in more love triangles when a new romantic interest gets introduced. Lisa's romantic storylines are much more easygoing, compared to her tumultuous platonic relationships. Most of them are centered around a mutual interest. And Lisa only gets dumped once. Usually her relationships are broken off due to characters realizing they want different things, or simply being forced to leave each other. As for Bart, well, he's had relationships with Jessica Lovejoy, Greta Wolfcastle, Gina Vendetti, Jenda, This Summer Romance Girl, Darcy, Mary Spuckler, Jenny, Nikki McKenna, Kamala, Shauna Chalmers, This 5th Grade Girl, Annika Van Houten, and Terry but not Sherry. Now, this might sound like an innocuous group, but oh boy do things get weird. Bart ends up fighting with like half the girls on this list, sometimes physically, but usually it's Bart's emotions that get beaten up. Also, Bart almost gets married 3 different times. He considers eloping with Darcy in season 18 to be a father to her child, don't ask. He almost gets forced into a marriage with Mary Spuckler in season 19, and he mates with Kamala in their Avatar parody. Bart's love life is such a mess that the show ended up calling this out in season 24. It's clear when comparing Bart and Lisa's romances side by side that the writers prefer looking at the wacky and chaotic nature of love in Bart's storylines, whereas Lisa's are more grounded and passion-driven. I think gender stereotypes definitely play a factor here in the story selection, but also Bart and Lisa's general temperament and maturity levels. Lisa can't relate to her friends, but makes deep romantic bonds. Bart makes friends easily and fights with girls. Interestingly, Bart is given more individual episodes centered specifically on romance. I guess when you're Lisa and you've got Milhouse and Nelson always waiting in the wings, you don't need as many boyfriends of the week. Moving on. Next, let's look at examples where Bart and Lisa are either accepted into a new social circle or just randomly hang out with people. These are generally one-off situations, not necessarily friend of the week stuff, but usually related to a larger story topic. Bart hangs out with Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney for an entire afternoon. And although the bullies later turn on him, Jimbo clearly likes Bart here, and they're chill enough that we could call this a very temporary friendship. We also have these 3 military academy cadets who have speaking roles. They're suspicious of Bart here, but have definitely accepted him into their group. In season 21, Bart attends a birthday party of a mysterious kid named Dylan that he used to play with. When he travels to Canada, he hangs out with Milhouse. And finally, he's on an esports team with Sophie Krostowski. Lisa had a sleepover in season 3 with Becky, Wanda, and this white-haired girl. In season 20, Homer and Marge throw her a party, and she befriends these 3 popular kids, who all take pictures and add her on Facebook. The following year, she meets up with 3 Wiccans and joins their group. She goes to an arts camp and bonds with Aisha and Sarah. On a cruise, she befriends a boy from the Caribbean and a girl from Singapore. And in Brick Like Me, Lisa bonds with 3 older girls over some dated reference. Lisa definitely has the advantage in this category. Compared to Bart, she tends to pursue her interests and passions more actively, which provides opportunities to meet new characters who share those interests. Whereas Bart is more relaxed, would prefer to bum around and hang out with whoever he bumps into. Both are certainly valid ways to meet new people, but Lisa's tends to be easier to write into a structured story. When Bart does develop a new interest, he often draws in his existing friends. Boy, that established secondary cast is really killing Bart's numbers here, huh? Here's where things get especially messy. These are the characters who don't fit into one of the other groups, or are just plain questionable in general. I think most people would agree that from Cape Fear, Lisa's pen pal Anya would count as a friend, so we'll put her on the board. In Behind the Laughter, the voiceover describes Richie Rich as one of Bart's good friends, so we'll add him too. Samantha Stanky is really more of Milhouse's friend. Then again, Bart is cool with reading comics with her and going to the movies, so we could argue this is one of those friends by proxy situations. Bart plays video games with Jeremy Jailbird in season 17. They clearly get along, so I'm inclined to include him. However, if we include Jeremy, then we should probably include Martin for Lisa, and I already did a whole video on why those two aren't really friends. We'll leave these two off. Then we've got the Super Friends: Database, Cosign, Email, Ham, and Report Card. Lisa is already in this club and seemingly enjoys being there. Then again, Bart also joins, despite how annoying they are. There's a case that these guys would only count for Lisa. However, since they're literally called the Super Friends, I'm inclined to count them for both. In season 30, both Bart and Lisa joined Bossy Riot to do pranks all over Springfield. You could argue that the characters don't like each other and they're just doing this for the cause. On the other hand, they are having fun doing these pranks, and there is a level of trust in being in this group. Following this logic, we've got these 2 girls from separate vocations that Lisa joins up with. The way one of them gushes about what Lisa said to Skinner suggests that they warmed up to her, so I think they count as temporary friends. Same logic for Bart and Todd Flanders, as he comes along for the Shelbyville Crusade. We could also throw in their mini-golf agreement as another example for them. In season 19's Apocalypse Cow, Lisa brings in Compost and Solar Panel, 2 teenagers from her animal rights group, to help save a cow. Once again, they might be doing this only for the cause, but if they're willing to help Lisa out of a jam in the middle of the night, you'd think they'd have to be on pretty friendly terms. Then we've got the 2 foreign exchange students. In season 1, Lisa and Adil have a heated debate over politics, but make up in the end. Adil asks friend, and they shake hands in agreement. Similarly, in Treehouse of Horror 4, Bart and Uter eat candy together, and Bart declares them friends. Both of these are arguably self-serving, one-sided friendships, but it's kind of a wash since both Bart and Lisa have one. And last but not least, there's the mysterious party guests, Gus Hubner and Toby. Homer and Marge throw a party for Lisa and invite a bunch of her past acquaintances, but only this Gus Hubner kid shows up. They were on a soccer team together 2 years ago. He came to the party, but Lisa is more puzzled to see him than excited, so don't know what the deal is. Then there's this Toby kid who went to Bart's birthday at Wally Weasel's. Bart asks him if he lost weight when he goes by. Is Toby one of Bart's friends? Sure, I guess. I'm so very tired at this point. If you think some of these examples were stretches, you should see the full list of friends according to the Simpsons wiki. No, Alaska Nebraska is not Lisa's friend. No, Proto-Ralph is not Lisa's friend. No, Sonic the Hedgehog is not Lisa's friend. You wiki editors are out of control. Also, why do these background students all have names and extensive appearance breakdowns? I never knew Sophie Jensen was so deep. And that's pretty much the list. By this completely scientific and not at all arbitrary analysis, it comes out to 66 friends for Lisa, 51 for Bart. I think Bart's list is probably higher if we throw in a lot of unnamed and non-speaking roles of kids who come to his parties. Maybe all these nerds should count. Honestly, the exact number is less important. Going through the specific examples was more about finding overall trends for each character over time. I think what's weird about The Simpsons, and why I wanted to look into this, is that the actual status quo of the show says something about Bart, and especially Lisa, that might not actually be true. That Bart's popularity and Lisa's unpopularity might be more of a status quo thing than a character thing. The Simpsons essentially took a snapshot of a specific point in their lives and broadcasted it for 30 years. So the timing of that snapshot is extremely important. Sure, Lisa has supposedly made more cumulative friends over the years, but if we look at almost any random episode, the odds are Bart has more friends than her. Lisa is unpopular, Lisa has no friends, none of the kids relate to her. But over 30 plus seasons, the show has demonstrated time after time after time that Lisa can make new connections, and that her social circle is surprisingly large. How can Lisa make so many friends and still be so lonely? Fundamentally, how should we define a character? By their status quo or by their actions? From looking over these examples, it appears that Lisa is a more extroverted character than the show gives her credit for. And while Bart is extremely sociable and charismatic, he can sometimes be more insular. He already has a group of close friends, so he doesn't feel the need to actively pursue as many meaningful connections. Bart instead relishes the popularity of the big crowd, tends to seek admiration rather than relationships. It's actually kind of fitting that in the futuristic episodes, Bart retreats back to living with Ralph or at Springfield Elementary or whatever. Bart likes the old status quo. He wants to continue living in it. Bart's strategy seems to be to draw people toward his big personality, whereas Lisa is more drawn to others. I think that's why Diggs is such an unusual Bart storyline. It's the rare instance where he gets sucked into someone else's world. We think of Bart as the generally more sociable character, but honestly, Bart could use more stories like these. Keep Bart from becoming too married to his status quo. It's probably why the writers throw so many girlfriends his way. Whereas Lisa goes down these sort of rabbit holes all the time. It's part of her personality. Her relationships break down because, quite frankly, after going down those rabbit holes, she often doesn't like what she finds. She's drawn more to others, but is ultimately pickier than her brother. It's weird to conclude that Bart is kinda closed off and Lisa is the open but picky one, but hey, I guess that's the nature of character arcs, huh? The pessimistic way to view the Simpsons status quo is that Lisa lives in a nightmarish Groundhog Day loop of constantly finding new friends and never getting to keep any of them. It's like David Cooper's existential comics, how nothing ever seems to change. But I prefer the more optimistic outlook, that 32 seasons worth of evidence shows that Lisa repeatedly crushes the status quo. She's like the symbol for this kind of character journey at this point. She proves that she can do it, that she can go out there, meet new people, and make those meaningful connections. It's not her fault that she's not allowed to keep any of them. Blame Matt Groening. And yeah, The Simpsons is definitely old-fashioned in this regard, but there is value in seeing characters repeatedly solving the same problem. If Lisa's been able to make more friends over the years than her popular brother, then she's probably doing something right.